Hello everyone, this is Johannes.
And this is Cinema.
And you are watching Board Gaming Ramblings.
And today we are taking a look at Lands.
This is coming to Kickstarter, you can check it out there, but before you do, you can see this video to see if it's something that's going to be interesting to you. Of course, everything here is going to be a prototype component, so just going to say that before we dive into the game. This is a card-driven action selection game where you are building your own sweet land. Because the king is sick.
Yes.
And he needs a successor. But this time, the king is not sick from like a normal illness. He ate too much sweets.
I love that.
And he now needs people to succeed him. And the best way to do that is to build a countryside. Because that's how you know who's going to take over for you. In this game, you are going to play cards. They're going to look like this. They're going to give you special powers, special abilities, one-time abilities most of the time, and some ongoing abilities. And also you are going to do actions. So on your turn, you're either going to play a card or you're going to do an action. When you do an action, you will choose one of the actions. Later in the game, more actions are going to be available. And when you choose an action, you will have to pay cards. So right now, there was somebody already did this action before me. I would then have to pay 2 cards to be able to do that action. If somebody wants to do it a third time, they would have to play 3 cards. And when I do it the first time, how many cards? Can they guess it?
Yeah, you have to pay 1.
Yes,
Yes,
that is correct. And then you're going to do the action. Most of these actions revolve around moving on tracks or placing things on your player board. I'm not going to go into detail about everything because there's a lot of stuff going on in this game. But basically, you will be moving on these tracks. They will help you score points at the end of the game. You will move on this track, which will probably help you score points at the end of the game, but also give you bonuses. You will move on these tracks, which will give you more income. You will place out buildings, so going to give you instant abilities and also some different things here and there. And you're going to build out your board. So every player is going to have their own player board. There is one side which has the same map on all of them and one that has a different map on each side. On each board. Yes, English, the language is a hard one. You're going to place things. In the beginning of the game, you will have to place these terrain tiles. You're going to start here with your capital. You'll have to place the terrain tiles. After you place the terrain tiles, you can build roads adjacent to them. So when you build a road adjacent to a tile, you're going to flip it and you're going to get an income advancement or an advancement on some of these scoring tracks. And after you've done that, you're then available to build a building on top of it. So it's like a 3-step ladder. You have to build the terrain, flip the terrain, and then place a building. And when you place a building, you also get the income once more. So different reasons that you want to build different buildings and all that, but this is what you are trying to do. You're trying to score points, you're trying to get these tiles which will help you out. And there is 3 different scoring markers in the game. All of them have like a different way they score. One is victory points, which is going to be victory points. One is city points, which is going to be worth 2 victory points. And the last is industry point, that's going to be worth victory points, depending on how far you went on the industry point track. At the end of the game, after 5 rounds of play, you are going to see who is the winner of Sweet Lands. And that is the overview, and that is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this game, but I feel like a lot of mechanisms seem familiar to me. It feels like a love letter to a lot of other Euro games. For example, I see some similarities with Terraforming Mars and Terra Mystica, for example, but this is absolutely its own game. It has enough of its own DNA, but there's some good mechanisms in this game.
Yeah, I really feel like, and that's a good thing for me, is that they're not trying to hide it. It really feels like, oh, these are things we like in other games, let's implement them into our game to make it work very well, because they're mechanisms that works well, and it feels like they are very well placed in this game. Let's talk about some of the elements of the game. We can't go into detail of them all because there is a lot of stuff going on in a good way. Let's talk about this. This is the action selection mechanism. How do you feel about it? Do you like it? Tell me all about it now.
I like it because you have this hand of cards in the beginning of your turn and you're thinking, okay, this is a card I want to play and this is a card I don't like this too much. It's either too expensive or it doesn't work with my strategy. And then I can use them for paying for these actions. And sometimes you really have to think because you want to do a lot here, but you really want to play those cards as well, so you need to balance how you spend your cards.
Yeah, and I have to say, because this is one of the things that feels like Terraforming Mars to me is the way that it scales. And other games as well, is that in the beginning you have nothing like Terra Mystica as well. When you play Terra Mystica or you play any of those kind of games, the first round you're going to be like, I didn't get to do anything. This doesn't feel that tight. Because in the beginning you're going to have a amount of different resources, and then you're going to try to move up on the tracks. Like in the beginning here, this character starts with 11 income in coins, and one of the times you played I had like 48 income in the last round. So you're getting a lot of them, and the cards always going to cost you money. So it's going to be, this was 6, that's a very cheap card. It costs like 18, 24, another 6, 15, 8, 16, 8, 8. Yes, you understand, different numbers, and I am destroying everything. So it kind of gives you that escalating feeling because you get more powers, more abilities, more different things you can do. In the beginning, when you are placing this, you're kind of feeling like, oh, do I want to take the income or the points?
Yeah.
Because this is going to give you some bonuses, but most of the time it's going to be for points. And in the first time I played, I was like, oh, I'm moving on this track now. And then after 2 rounds, like, why did I do that? I need to get up there so I can actually get some income. Yes, there's a lot of things. Let's talk about the player board. Tell me about it, building the kingdom.
Yeah, this feels like you want to do all the things, but the things doesn't work together.
Yes.
That's a positive thing, because it makes you make decisions. So, for example, you want to build these separate groups of 3 or more different buildings because that is a city, and cities will score you more city points, which is a double amount of victory points basically at the end of the game. But at the same time, you also want to build, these roads has to come from your starting area, so you can't really utilize this without building everything up until that point. And then I have this space. It's room for a building there, but I don't want to place a building there. So, and you also want to connect these harbors, or else you will get negative 40 points at the end of the game. So there's many reasons for the different buildings you want to put out. So I think that's an interesting puzzle.
Very much so, because also, as you said, one thing you didn't notice is that you also want to build a lot of the same building because you're going to get better and better bonuses. The income you get in the beginning depends on the character you play, because there's going to be different character sheets. There's 7 of them, which are double-sided. So there's 14 different characters with different abilities, different way that you play them. These bonuses are going to be like similar, especially these ones are the same, but like in might be a different order. These are going to be similar, but also might be different depending on the strategy that the character is trying to kind of tell you that this might be a good thing for you to do. So you also, and at the top, you're going to get the scorings at the end of the game. So you kind of want to rush to get those as well. But then it's going to be harder to get the buildings. What I'm trying to say is that there's many paths to victory. And also there's these 3 different victory points. I've never seen that before. How do you feel about like the 3 different victory point tracks?
In the beginning it felt a little weird, but I think it's cool to separate them because it gives you more of a feeling of where your points actually is coming from. So it's easier then to see if I should go for this, make your own final scoring down here. If I have very little city points, that might be a bad idea. But city points, as you can see here, can potentially score you a lot, but I found that very hard to achieve.
I think that you could have basically done like, oh, a city is giving you 2 victory points at the end of the round. The thing with this is it's going to be different depending on how the industry points is going to be different worth depending on the track. But also with the 3 different victory points, you can then have a different cards, different things referring to the different. So when you're making synergies, making combos, there can be, okay, but if I go for this kind of point, it's going to be better than if I go for this kind of point. So that is very interesting. I really like the cards. There is a huge pile of cards. And this might be the thing that reminds me the most of Terraforming Mars. It even has a drafting variant, which we haven't played with yet, but I really would want to play with it when I play again. Because as in Terraforming Mars, if I draw 5 cards, might be great cards, and if you draw 5 cards, it might not be good for your strategy.
Yeah, you have these like tags in Terraforming Mars, these different kind of desserts basically. That's you can make synergies. For example, they make some you get a better bonus if you have this and this many symbols, or this symbol makes another card cheaper, for example. I think that is cool. And also a lot of the cards has this instant ability that you might find on these basic action board, but here you can pay money for it instead of using resources, because you're gonna have a lot more money than you're going to have resources most of the time.
Most of the cards are...
do I want to spend money on this, maybe?
All of the cards basically have an instant effect. That's like most of the effects are instant. And then you can also pay these diamonds, which are like a rare resource, to tuck them under your player board. And then they might be triggered when you do like a special action, which we didn't get to do that often, depending on like, it's not made for you to do that very often, but it could then potentially build up a different thing. But these are... It feels kind of not simple, but I feel very easy to see in my hand as you're like, is this going to be good for me?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm not playing the card only for this ongoing thing.
Nope.
You are getting something that's like, oh, this is pretty good. This actually costs nothing, and I get all this stuff. But then it's always the thing like here, if I will get 2 up on the income, I will get to place a terrain, but then also if I have these 2 symbols, I will get to place another terrain. So I'm kind of thinking, oh, I really want to play it now if I get it early on, but maybe I want to wait until I get these.
Yeah.
So that balance is really nice, and I really enjoy the tags. I enjoy the cards, different colored cards, or different symbols, all of it. It feels like a good variety of effects.
Yes, and you also have a lot of variability in the different player powers, the unique player boards, and as you said, all the cards.
There is so much stuff to do here. We cannot go into everything, but I will have to say that this game looks good.
Yeah, like the production is beautiful. I love the setting of it.
Yeah.
Making like this heavy Euro game into something sweet is really fun. And yeah, even though this is a prototype, it looks really good.
Yeah, we are getting to the point where most prototypes looks 90% or more like the finished product.
That's true.
Which is nicer because it's going to be easier for you to see on the screen how this game is actually going to look. If these were cubes, it wouldn't look that interesting. So let's talk a bit about who this is for and who this might not be for. First of all, this is a heavy game.
Yeah, so I think if you like heavy Euro games, you should look out for this. I would say like it might be a lengthy game.
Yes.
And there's not like a lot of player interaction. So I don't know. We haven't played it with more than 2 players.
Nope.
So I don't know if it would be very long, for example, at 4 players. And I don't know how much, like, because it's not very interaction heavy, that will justify the time.
It does not have interaction, basically. You are kind of working with this, like, because if you go there first, I will have to pay more cards. That could be a problem. But also there's an action that's going to let you get another one that you can place for free anywhere. And also when you play with 3 and 4 players, which also shows me that this is not supposed to be super tight, you get like a sideboard where you can copy the actions.
Yeah.
So it's not made to be like this super tight, oh no, you did that before me. It could in some cases be that. And this is 100% yourself. So the rules even says, and I want to be clear about this because some people, if you really need interaction in your games, I don't think this is going to be for you. But even the rule says that after you choose your action and you pay for your action, I can just start my turn. Because it doesn't matter. And for me, I don't care. Especially if I like the puzzle, and I really like the puzzle in this one. So for me, and if you notice our games we like, I like interaction, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to know. I think that might be like, for many people, that is like a crux. If you want that part of the game, you will not find it here.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy puzzles, moving on tracks, doing cool actions, making a cute little player board with a lot of variability that you can play, it's going to be probably like very good with 2, and depending on the type of gamer you are, going to work well with more players as well. I think it's going to be a good fit.
Cool.
Anything you want to add?
No, that's fine.
Okay, then that is going to be the end. If you're here, subscribe. You can do it. It's free and it's cool and it doesn't cost you anything, but it makes us happy because we get subscribers. That is the end. Thank you for being here. You are awesome. You've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings. I'm Johannes.
I'm Cinema.
And you've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings. I already said it. And bye-bye.